Hello students, welcome to our demonstration. So today we're going to create our second project here on Visual Basic. Now first we need to click new project, and then this dialog box of course will appear. So click the Windows Form application and then rename now your project. So let's say for example demo 2. So once you're done, click OK. And then you will be transferred on this screen. Now this is where we design our project. So this is actually the design view. So we can now add controls onto our form. So click the toolbox here or press Ctrl Alt X, and then here you can see the toolbox. So this is where we put controls, or this is where we can get the controls. So let's say for example we want to add a label. So just click the label and then drag it here onto your form. So same as with the text box and buttons, so we can reposition our label anywhere on the form. So now let's add two buttons. So look for the button here, just click it and then drag it here onto your form. So let's add another one. So click it and then drag it here on the form. Now we can again reposition our control. So you may highlight everything and then position it anywhere on the form. Something like that. We can now close our toolbox if we're done adding control. So just click close here, and then let's now resize our form here. Okay, I think that's good. At this point, we're going to change now the properties of this control. So we need the properties panel, so we can undock it here from here and then put it here so we can easily change the properties of each control. So if we want to change the text of the buttons, all we have to do is to click first the button 1, and then on the properties panel, look for the text property and then change it, let's say for example to good morning. Okay, something like that. So we can resize our button like this. I think this is enough. Now for the button 2, we will add text good evening. So click the button 2 first and then go to the properties panel and then look for the text property and then change the text into good evening and then press enter if you want. So you can again resize our button so we can see the text inside the button. Now, same with the button, so we can change also the text property of this label. So click the label first and then look for the text property and then change it, let's say for example to greetings. Okay. Now, aside from the text property, we can also change the size and then the color of the label. So let's say for example, click the label, and then if you want to change the font size or the font face, so you look for the font property, click the ellipsis here, and then this dialog box will appear. So you can now change the font face, the font style, and then the font size. So let's say for example, let's select this Minerva font and then let's have it bold, and then the size, let's make it 16, and then once you're done, click OK. So we changed now the font size and then the font style of this label. So we can also do that in the button. So just click the button and then look for the font property, click the ellipsis, or you may select the two buttons and then go to the font property, select the ellipsis here, and then you can now change the size and then the font face. You may choose any style you want and then click OK once you're done. Something like that. So you can resize your button if you want. So we can put it here to resize it evenly. Okay, something like that. We can now add codes to our program. Now here is the program logic. Now once we click the button good morning, it will show text here on the label good morning. Now once we click the button good evening, it will show text here in the label good evening. Okay. Now first is we need to identify the name of our control. So this button is button 2, this button is button 1, and this label is label 1. So we're going to change the text property of the label 1. Now, for the good morning button, so all we have to do is to double click it, and then let's now close this properties panel, so we won't be needing that. Now, for the code here, all we have to do is to type label 1 dot text is equal to good morning. Okay, so I will explain it now. So once we click this one, button 1, which is the good morning button, now the text property, or it will assign this value to the text property of label 1. Okay, so let's now test our program. So just click this start debugging icon or F5 on the keyboard. So again, once we click this button, so it will show text here, good morning. Okay, so next is we need to type instruction for the good evening button. So all we have to do is to double click the good evening button, and so you would notice we are transferred here on the code view, and then you would notice our insertion point is on this part. Okay, so all we have to do is to type the code here on the button 2. Okay, because we want to give instruction to the button 2, which is the good evening button. So we'll do the same thing. So label 1 dot text equals good evening. Okay, so I will explain it now. So we will assign once we click button 2, which is the good evening button, so we will assign this value to the text property of label 1. So here, let's now test our program. So let's debug it. And then once you click the good evening button, so it will, assign text good evening to the text property of label 1, something like that. So once you click good morning, so good evening, good evening. Once you're done, you can now save the project. So all you have to do is to go to the File tab. So click the File tab here and then click Save All. And then click Save. Now this will automatically be saved in the documents of your computer. So just click Save. And then there, your project now is already saved. So there you have it. So we have now our second program here on Visual Basic. So you are now ready to take the laboratory activity